On January 4, 46 BCE, Julius Caesar stood on African sand, watching 16,000 enemy warriors surround his 1,000 men. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. 16 enemies for every Roman. No reinforcements within 50 miles. No escape. Caesar had come to Africa to hunt down the last remnants of Pompey's faction. After Pompey's death in Egypt, Cato the Younger and Scipio had rebuilt republican resistance in North Africa, commanding 60,000 men, including King Juba's legendary Numidian cavalry, warriors born in the saddle who could put 3 arrows in the air before a Roman could draw his sword. Back in Rome, Caesar's enemies waited like vultures. One major defeat, one broken legion, and they would strip him of everything. This wasn't just another campaign, it was Caesar's final gamble for absolute power. The morning had started as a routine foraging expedition. Caesar needed supplies for his undermanned legions camped near the coast. But his intelligence was catastrophically wrong. His scouts reported a few hundred Numidian raiders. The reality? King Juba's finest cavalry, 16,000 strong, commanded by Labienus, Caesar's former lieutenant who knew every Roman tactical formation because he had helped perfect them. The trap had been months in preparation. Cato and Scipio understood Caesar's weakness. He needed victories fast and spectacularly. They offered what appeared to be an easy target, and Caesar took the bait. As dust clouds appeared on the horizon, Caesar's centurions should have ordered immediate retreat. But Caesar had spent years in Gaul proving that standard doctrine was for ordinary commanders. He was about to discover that African warfare followed completely different rules. The Numidian cavalry struck like a desert sandstorm, appearing everywhere at once, yet never close enough for Roman steel to reach. They rode in perfect circles around the Roman formation, staying just beyond javelin range, loosing arrows in coordinated volleys that fell like deadly rain. Labienus commanded with intimate knowledge of Roman weaknesses. He feinted charges that forced Romans into defensive squares, then wheeled away, leaving Caesar's men gasping in bronze armor that trapped heat like furnaces. Every false attack drained energy the Romans couldn't spare. The killing began in earnest as the sun reached its peak. Numidian javelins found gaps between shields with surgical precision. Men who had survived Gaul fell to weapons they couldn't even see coming. Then everything changed when the Numidians revealed the true scope of their trap. They had been herding Caesar's formation steadily southeast, away from the coast, into a natural amphitheater of hills where cavalry could attack from elevation while infantry struggled uphill through sand. Caesar realized he had been outgeneraled by his own former student. The psychological warfare proved devastating. Numidian war cries echoed off the hills. The enemy displayed captured Roman standards from earlier defeats, taunting Caesar's men with proof that other legions had already fallen. By the 4th hour, the mathematics of attrition were becoming impossible to ignore. Roman arrows were finite, water was running low, and the African sun was turning armor into instruments of torture. Caesar counted enemy banners from a dozen different tribes, all united to destroy him. Then Caesar did something no Roman general had ever attempted in open battle against cavalry. Instead of maintaining the traditional Roman square, he ordered his 1,000 legionaries to form a single extended line, 4 men deep, stretching nearly half a mile across the valley floor. To every centurion it sounded like suicide. Extended lines were for fighting infantry, not mobile horsemen. But Caesar had seen something in the Numidian attack patterns that even Labienus had missed. The transformation took 20 agonizing minutes. Roman sentries wheeled and extended while arrows continued to fall. Caesar moved along the line personally, his purple cloak making him a target for every archer, but his presence kept exhausted legionaries from breaking. Here's the genius. Caesar's extended line would force the Numidians to choose between attacking in small groups, negating their numerical advantage, or concentrating in areas where surrounding hills would restrict their escape routes. The first test came when 2,000 Numidian horsemen charged the Roman center, expecting to shatter the thin line. Instead, they found themselves funneled between rocky outcrops into a killing zone. The legionaries gave way in calculated retreats that drew the horsemen deeper. When the Numidians wheeled to escape, they found themselves trapped between converging Roman wings that closed like jaws. The slaughter lasted less than 10 minutes but changed everything. 300 enemy horsemen died in that valley, the first Roman success of a day that had seemed destined for disaster. The extended line created multiple simultaneous combats, preventing Labienus from coordinating his forces. Instead of one overwhelming attack, the Numidians fought dozens of smaller actions where their mobility advantage disappeared and Roman training became decisive. Then Caesar spotted the opening that would define his legend. Labienus had pulled warriors from his left wing, creating a gap in the encirclement nearly 300 yards wide. Caesar had perhaps 5 minutes before Numidian mobility closed it. Taking 2 centuries of his finest veterans, Caesar led them personally toward the gap. His purple cloak streamed behind him as he ran, making him visible to every man on the battlefield. The sight of their commander charging on foot transformed exhausted legionaries into an unstoppable battering ram. The impact when Romans met Numidians created a sound witnesses described as thunder wrapped in screaming. The collision lasted perhaps 3 minutes, but those minutes decided the battle. As Caesar's assault force punched through, the extended Roman formation suddenly contracted like a closing fist. What had been a desperate defensive action transformed into a coordinated offensive. Labienus watched his tactical masterpiece disintegrate as Roman discipline met Numidian confusion. Numidian morale cracked. Entire squadrons that had been circling Roman positions like wolves suddenly broke and fled. Within minutes, organized resistance collapsed into individual survival as 16,000 warriors decided discretion trumped valor. Caesar seized the moment with predatory instincts. Instead of celebrating survival, he ordered immediate pursuit. Roman sentries that had been fighting for their lives suddenly found themselves hunting enemies who had terrorized them all morning. The pursuit lasted until sunset. By day's end, Caesar's 1,000 men had killed nearly 4,000 Numidian horsemen while losing fewer than 200 of their own. Bodies littered the valley floor across 12 miles of desert. Labienus himself barely escaped. Among the enemy dead lay chieftains from 6 different tribes. King Juba's finest cavalry, warriors who had never known defeat, lay scattered across the battlefield. The victory's impact rippled across North Africa. Within 6 weeks, 3 major cities surrendered rather than face the commander who had turned impossible odds into tactical doctrine. Thapsus fell after a single day. Utica surrendered without resistance. The psychological earthquake shattered alliances that had taken Cato months to forge. The tactical innovations pioneered at Ruspina became standard Roman doctrine within a generation. The extended line formation appeared in subsequent battles across Africa, Syria, and the Germanic frontier, proving that innovation born from crisis could become systematic doctrine. Labienus never recovered from being outgeneraled by his former mentor. Cato's suicide at Utica stemmed partly from his realization that Roman military superiority had become unshakable after Caesar proved that Republican forces couldn't match Caesarian innovation. Modern staff colleges still examine Ruspina as the perfect example of defensive action transformed into offensive victory through leadership that refused to accept mathematical inevitability. Caesar's success required not just courage, but systematic understanding of infantry capabilities, cavalry limitations, and terrain advantages that most generals would miss under pressure. On January 4, 46 BCE, Julius Caesar watched 1,000 Roman soldiers prove that mathematical impossibility yields to tactical genius when desperation is transformed into calculated audacity. They proved that impossible odds become possible when tactical innovation meets disciplined execution. The greatest victories emerge not from superior numbers, but from superior thinking applied under pressure that would break ordinary men.